Now, Taupo MP Louise Upston has been appointed the new Minister for Tourism and Hospitality, relieving Matt Ducey of the portfolio, following the government's cabinet reshuffle announcement over the weekend. Boosting tourism numbers is a priority, according to Nicola Willis, the country's new Minister of Economic Growth. She said particularly Chinese tourists, which I thought was a little strange, but the statement already is making headlines in the South China Morning Post. Willis stated, "Our job is to make it easy for them to come in the door, easy for them to come to New Zealand." I'm reading verbatim with the thems. Then they will get here. I have great faith in our tourism and hospitality providers that they will do everything they can to get as many dollars out of those back pockets as possible. Now, both the Restaurant Association and Hospitality New Zealand paid tribute to the achievements of the First Minister for Tourism, Matt Ducey, acknowledging his work in the portfolio and especially the Hospitality Summit that was held at Parliament in December last year. So where to going forward with Louise Upston? I wanted to check in with the CEO of Hospitality of New Zealand, Steve Armitage. Steve, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you too.
So both Hospitality and both you and the Restaurant Association have acknowledged the work of Matt Ducey that he did last year. What did he do, Steve? What were you pleased with?
I think first and foremost, it was the first time that we've actually had hospitality specifically referenced in a ministerial warrant. So the government deserves some credit from our point of view to have hospitality recognised in its own right. There are distinctions from tourism. Every tourist experiences hospitality, but you don't have to be a tourist to experience hospitality.
Exactly
Obviously,
right.
people are out and about in cafes and restaurants and bars within their own local communities all the time. So there is a distinction, and we were appreciative of having a minister who I think got his head around that distinction pretty quickly and also understood that there was a need for the government to look at where it could provide a little bit more meaningful support to our sector.
Are you optimistic with the new change in Louise Upston that the work will continue? What do you want to see her tackle?
Well, you referenced the Hospitality Summit in your opening comments there, and that was just held in the week prior to Christmas. So the Restaurant Association and ourselves are just working through the outputs of that summit, which was hosted at the Beehive, which was great because it gave us, again, some status. And we're hopeful of having a report that will be completed within the next couple of weeks, which gives, I think, the incoming minister something to pick up and move forward with pretty quickly. We've got our first direct engagement with the minister, our new minister, tomorrow, which is fantastic. So it'll be a good opportunity for us to sort of start to socialise some of those ideas and to get a sense as to how she's seeing things as she steps into the role.
There are signs of recovery, Steve, but you yourself have said hospitality is still plagued by a boom and bust cycle. Can you explain?
Well, there's a significant element in what you said again in your preamble that visitor numbers continue to lag from where they were prior to COVID. We're still at about 85% of capacity as to the number of tourists we were having come into New Zealand in 2019. And that the Chinese market is a significant component of that those numbers haven't returned to the same level. There's geopolitical reasons, I'm sure, that have an impact on it. But we certainly would love to see those numbers boost because, a lot of our businesses are heavily reliant on those international visitors as they move through the country, particularly in off-peak times.
It's interesting, Steve, because I understand what you're saying that, we still aren't quite back to where we were, but it seems to be a postcode problem because if you look at, say, Queenstown, the mayor there, Glenn Lewis, he says that they've actually got more people now coming to Queenstown than before COVID. So
and that's part of the challenge is trying to make sure that as much as possible you're getting regional dispersal. Yeah. If you talk to operators in Auckland, our largest centre obviously, and where 70% of all international visitors come in, they would say that they're crying out for more visitors. The city had geared itself up for continual growth. And the number of new hotels that have come online over the course of the last few years in particular has just increased the inventory in the city. But we don't have anywhere near the level of events or content that we did prior to COVID to sort of, fill those hotel rooms, if you like. The new International Convention Centre, once that gets up and running, that's going to provide a huge boost. and obviously the extension of the resource consent to Eden Park to allow for more concerts is going to make a big difference too. But we certainly need to see more demand coming through to make sure we've got enough heads in beds.
Yeah. The GP sailing in Auckland over the weekend was just ripper. I mean, it was pumping. So I think...
it was one of those weekends with the Luke Combs concert and Sail GP and a few other events on too, that the city had a real buzz about it. And,
it was fantastic.
We don't want those things to be too far apart. We'd love to have them happening more regularly.
I actually saw the Minister Upston at Luke Combs, of all places. So it was...
Did you enjoy the concert?
Can I be honest, Steve? Yes, I did. Well, I look, I'm very grateful because I was a guest of the park from Eden Park, so I'm very grateful for the tickets. But I did not know much about the guy. Country music is not really in my wheelhouse. But all the cool kids are into it, though, aren't they? Steve, all the cool kids, everyone I spoke to, from someone in the shop to my hairdresser, were all like, "Oh, how did you get to my dog walker? Oh my God, I'm so jealous." So, look, I gave the big guy a go, and I enjoyed him. He's
good.
New Zealanders we must be loving our country. Good stuff.
Yeah, as you say, you could notice it around the city over the weekend.
Yeah.
People in their get up. So country's having a bit of a renaissance.
Hey, Steve, I digress, but there are still some key issues. Is labour shortages one of them for hospitality?
Yeah, yes, it is. Yeah, it's perennially a key issue for us, particularly gearing up for this peak summer period. So predictably, the number of hospitality businesses up and down the country struggle to try to get enough staff to cater to demand, particularly in the regions. Auckland and the larger centres tend to empty out over the summer period. And so those places like Bay of Plenty, Northland, even through the West Coast, I know that they've struggled to get enough people in to maintain the service standards they'd like to. So, we've been encouraged by some of the comments by the Minister around, looking at immigration settings. There'd already been a little bit of an easing late last year around work requirements for people to come in, which will help. Yep. But I think there's still a responsibility on us as a sector to do more to encourage New Zealanders into these roles. We don't want to be reliant on having to bring people in all the time.